When my son-in-law abandoned his baby at my doorstep, I never expected a decade later to find my world collapsing under the weight of a single, haunting choice. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The rain poured like a relentless curtain, blurring the edges of my small town. I was trapped inside, heart racing. As I opened that door, I saw the little bundle wrapped in a worn blanket, a mewling baby with wide, frightened eyes. The emptiness in that moment swallowed me. I could feel my hands trembling as I reached down, the baby's tiny fingers grasping at nothing, yet somehow, they gripped my heart. That was 10 years ago. Now, every creak of the house seems to echo his absence. My once happy home is heavy with silence. The walls have absorbed the grief, and the air feels thick, stifling. My daughter, Emily, was so full of light then. But after that dreadful day, something in her dimmed. She walked around like a ghost, consumed by questions that never got answers. Where was he? Why did he leave? I wanted to scream, to shake the truth from her father, but all I could do was hold her. As days pressed into weeks, the familiar faces around me turned into symbols of pity. My friends whispered behind closed doors, casting furtive glances my way. I could feel the weight of their judgment, the feeling of being trapped in a scandal. How could he? They'd ask, never understanding the storm brewing inside. Sacrifices piled up like leaves in the fall, each one tugging at my heartstrings, reminding me of the life we were missing. Each birthday passed like a ghost, and I saw the joy seep from Emily's smile. I wrestled with guilt, feeling that I had to be both grandmother and father. The love I felt was fierce, but the pain was sharper. I remember those moments late at night, when I'd sit by her bed as she cried, my own tears blending with her fragile whispers. Why did Daddy leave? Now, a decade later, a letter arrived, slipped under my door like a snake ready to strike. The envelope had no return address. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. The air crackled, thick with tension. It felt heavier than it should have, almost like it was alive. I opened it, heart pounding. Inside was a simple note: I need to see you. For her sake. You can't keep the truth from her any longer. Those words ignited a storm. Who was this? What truth? My heart raced. What had I kept hidden? I felt sweat collect at the nape of my neck, and every heartbeat pulsed against the silence. The walls seemed to close in on me, and I could sense their judgment tightening like a noose. Could I face the past? All my fears crackled in the air, waiting for the right moment to break free. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The letter lay there like a ticking clock, each second amplifying the fears bubbling within me. I glanced at Emily, sprawled on the couch with her books, her brow furrowed in deep concentration. She was bright, more so than I ever imagined, yet that light was shadowed by the unanswered questions I could never bring myself to voice. How could I let her find out in such a cruel way? I picked up the letter again. My breath hitched as I traced the words silently, the emerging realization that perhaps this was a chance for Hera at least to finally understand the piece of her history that had been shrouded in darkness. But the thought of facing the specter of her father sent a chill down my spine. He had shattered our lives, vanished without warning, leaving a 10-year trail of hurt and unanswered questions that I needed time to think, to untangle my thoughts and create a path forward. But as the night draped over us, its cloak thick with uncertainty, I was haunted by the specter of that letter. I held on to the slim hope that amidst the chaos, there could be clarity. As I sat in the fading light, memories assaulted Emily's first steps, her laughter ringing like music, our shared moments of joy, and the heartache that crept in like winter frost. It was undeniable that she needed closure. But did I? Could I survive another encounter with her father, the man who left us to face the world alone, a sudden knock at the door jolted me from my thoughts. It was Paul, my neighbor and an old friend, the only one who had never cast judgment. His kindness was a balm, a welcome relief. "I brought over some dinner," he said, his voice warm and inviting as he entered. "Thank you," I replied, though my heart felt heavy, burdened by my secrets. He set the tray down and looked at me, his gaze flickering with something deeper. "You okay? You've been quiet lately." I forced a smile, but it crumpled almost immediately. "Just about to hit that time of year again," I murmured, thinking of Emily's upcoming birthday. He nodded, understanding without needing to pry. Paul was the type to let silence speak. It was comforting and painful all at once that we shared dinner in a silence that was both familiar and strained. Every bite tasted bittersweet, and I could feel the weight of my secrets clawing at my chest. After a while, Paul broke the silence. "You know, it's okay to let others in. You don't have to carry all of this weight alone." His words hung in the air between us, reverberating through my heart. I ached to share the burden, the confusion, the deep-rooted pain of Emily's father's betrayal. But the fear of what that revelation might mean for my daughter kept those words locked away. As he left, I was left with an echo of hope, a feeling that maybe facing the truth could bring us closer, not tear us apart. I decided to tuck the letter away for the night, to think on it a little longer. Tomorrow would come with its own set of challenges, but I needed to be strong for Emily. That night, I stirred in bed as the rain whispered against the window, the memories colliding within me, both sweet and haunting. Just as I was about to drift off, my phone buzzed violently on the bedside table. I reached for it, half asleep, barely able to process the message that blared to Liffy, a message from an unknown number. "I know where you've been hiding. It's time for the truth to come out." My heart dropped, an icy hand gripping around it. All those years of silence, and now someone else was thrusting into our lives, demanding attention. What truth? The question hung in the air, shimmering with a sense of dread. I couldn't ignore it. Fear clawed at me as I sat up, swallowed by the knowledge that whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. The rain had intensified, drumming a relentless rhythm against the glass, drowning out my thoughts, yet amplifying my anxiety. I could hardly process the message, its implications spinning through my mind as I felt the walls of our sanctuary closing in. I had crafted a world for Emily, a fragile existence built on resilience, but now it threatened to shatter with the revelation I feared would come crashing down on us both. That I clutched the phone, feeling an unfamiliar weight, the weight of inevitability that threatened to crush the facade I had so painstakingly maintained. With trembling hands, I texted back, my heart racing, heart pounding as I wrote, "Who is this? What do you want?" The seconds felt like hours, each passing moment sending a shiver of dread through me. That I glanced at Emily, sound asleep on the couch. Her face was serene, untouched by the turmoil that haunted my nights. She deserved so much better than this web of shadows I had woven around us. If only I could spare her from the ghosts of her father's past, but deep down, I knew it was no longer my choice to make. The phone vibrated again, jolting me from my thoughts. "You're sheltering a secret. Don't you think it's time to let her know? I'll be watching." The message sent a shock of fear through my veins, and it felt like a thunderbolt had struck right at the core of my anxieties. I couldn't let this unknown person tear apart our fragile peace. I needed to protect Emily, the instinct was primal. But how could I do that without addressing the very truth I had kept from her? That night dragged on, my heart pounding with each raindrop. I tossed and turned, visions of our past colliding with the fearful unknown of our future. When morning finally broke free from the shadows, it brought with it a heaviness that hung like fog in the air. I watched Emily wake, her sleepy smile a beacon that filled the room with warmth. "Good morning, Mom," she chirped, still wrapped in her blanket, the innocence of youth illuminating the dimness of my worries, if only for a moment. "Hey there," I managed, putting on a brave smile, though I felt like a mask was slipping off me. The fear that gnawed at me was becoming too loud to ignore, and each second felt like a countdown. "Can we go to the park today?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. This was a sweet, simple request, yet I hesitated, the weight of my decision collapsing over me. How could I think about enjoying a day while an unseen threat loomed in the background, waiting to strike? I glanced at my phone, the messages still fresh in my mind. It felt so selfish to even consider saying no. After a moment, I put on my best motherly face, a twisted illusion of normalcy. Sure, sweetheart. Park sounds great. The day wore on like a bittersweet memory, filled with laughter that echoed in the air and banter that rang like music in the trees. As we sat on a bench, Emily shyly approached the subject of her father for the first time in ages. "Mom, do you think about him?" Her question caught me off guard. It slipped through the cracks of the walls I had built, and I sensed the weight of truth pressing on my chest. I forced myself to breathe, the sunlight weaving through the branches above casting a surreal glow around us. "Sometimes, honey. I do think about him." "Do you miss him?" she asked, her voice small that I glanced at her, the innocence in her eyes pulling at my heartstrings. This was the moment of reckoning, the moment to be honest, yet I felt ill-equipped. The looming shadow of the unknown gnawed at me, the truth threatening to spill forth like a dam breaking. "It's complicated." Emily looked at me, searching for clarity in my words, her brow furrowing in a way that broke my heart. I saw her struggle to untangle the confusion as I had for years. Before I could collect my thoughts, a tense silence enveloped us, broken only by the fluttering of leaves above. Then, without warning, my phone buzzed again, this time with a photo attachment that I hesitated and opened it, my breath hitching as a sense of dread washed over me. It was a picture of my house. Taken from a distance, the very one Emily and I had called home for so long. Below it, a single phrase taunted me: "You can't hide forever." Panic surged, freezing my blood in my veins. Emily could sense my shift in demeanor as she squinted at my phone. "Mom? What's wrong?" That was the moment of clarity shattered, the truth erupting like a volcano I had kept dormant for too long. Fear pulsated through every inch of me. I had to protect her, but at what cost? I don't want to ruin today, I started. But the words trailed off. I had already felt the words fraying at the edges, and I realized that no matter what, the truth was about to unfurl, and I was utterly powerless to stop it. As the world around us faded into a blur, enveloped in uncertainty, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. The very foundation of our fragile life was about to be tested, and in the face of the unknown, the only thing I could hear was the relentless echo of that single haunting phrase. I wasn't hiding anymore. Someone was determined to bring our buried secrets back into the light. The afternoon sun slipped behind a veil of thick clouds, mirroring the storms brewing inside me. I could feel Emily hovering close, her presence a flicker of warmth against the chill settling in my chest. The remnants of laughter lingered in the air, yet each sound felt muted, as if the universe was preparing me for an unwelcome truth that loomed on the horizon. That I focused on the scattered leaves near our feet, their vibrant colors dulled as shadows crept in, casting a pall that mirrored my spiraling thoughts. "Mom, you're not smiling. Are you okay?" Her voice broke through my spiraling anxiety, a lifeline cast just when I feared I might drown. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a bit tired," I lied, forcing a smile that barely reached my eyes. I had become a master at masking my pain, but Emily was no fool. She peered at me, concern glimmering in her gaze, and I felt the weight of my secrets burdening her innocent spirit. But before I could gather the courage to confront the truth swirling in my mind, a figure appeared at the edge of the park. A man I didn't recognize was watching Ushi's eyes locked onto mine, a predatory gleam reflecting in their depths. The world around me warped, the laughter of children growing distant. I pulled Emily closer as a surge of protective instinct took over. "Come on, let's head home," I said, my voice sounding steady despite the tremor in my heart. Emily responded with hesitation, looking back at the man. A glimpse of fear flickered across her face, but she couldn't understand what I did. Together, we hurried away, my heart pounding with each hurried step. I could feel anxiety creeping into my bones. Had this stranger come from the shadows of my past? Or was this simply paranoia rearing its ugly head? I couldn't shake the feeling that today marked a turning point, a point where my carefully constructed illusion of security began to unravel. Once home, I ushered Emily inside, shutting the door firmly behind us. My heart raced as I leaned against it, quietly listening to the heavy rain pattering once again on the roof, a stark reminder of the turmoil churning within. Mom, is everything okay? Emila's small voice broke the silence, and I turned to her, fighting against the fog of dread clouding my thoughts. Yeah, everything is okay. Just a little overwhelmed. You know? Sometimes, grown-ups have a lot on their minds. My attempt at reassurance felt paper thin. As Emily walked toward the living room, I felt a flicker of despair seeping into my resolve. How could I continue to shield her from the truth? More importantly, how long could I keep it hidden? Just then, my phone buzzed again, drawing me into its treacherous grip. Meet me where it began. Midnight, it read. The words twisted in my gut, revealing a world I thought I had escaped. I gripped the phone tightly, my knuckles blanching as the reality set in. Someone was trying to draw me back into a narrative I had desperately tried to forget. I looked over at Emily, watching her fumble with her toys, blissfully unaware of the entanglement closing in. Later that evening, as we settled into our routine, Emily immersed in her book and me engulfed in the chaotic thoughts of my own mind began to race. The longing for normalcy battled against the urgency of confronting the past. I had to tell her the truth, yet a part of me selfishly yearned to protect the remnants of her innocence. Just as I steeled myself for another round of denial, a sharp knock at the door shattered the fragile peace we had managed to assemble. My heart plummeted. Could it be the man from the park? I motioned for Emily to stay back, fear gripping my chest as I approached the door cautiously. Through the peephole, I caught a glimpse of another stranger, a woman with wild curly hair and intense eyes that held a depth of sorrow I had known intimately. My breath hitched as recognition assaulted my senses. It was someone I had hoped to never see again, a fragment of my past that could no longer stay buried. That I hesitated, battling the instinct to turn away. Instead, I opened the door a crack, enough to confront the unexpected specter of my forgotten history. What do you want? I croaked, my voice a whisper against the raging storm outside. That we need to talk. It's about him. And the child. Her words cut through the air like a jagged knife, opening old wounds I had thought were stitched shut. In that moment, I felt the foundation of my world tremble, threatening to collapse under the weight of her revelation. Come in, I replied hoarsely, the floodgates of my past threatening to burst forth. I closed the door behind her, uncertainty swirling like the heavy clouds gathering once again in the sky outside. As I locked my eyes on this woman, the truth began to unravel in my heart, a truth I feared would rewrite everything I had tried to build for Emily. I looked toward the living room where my daughter remained blissfully unaware, and my heart ached. It was no longer a question of whether I could protect her. It was a matter of whether I was strong enough to face the truth, and if that truth would pull Emily and me into the darkness of a past I thought I could escape. The air in the room thickened with an unspeakable tension as she stepped inside, eyes locked onto mine like a diver searching for clarity beneath murky waters. I could feel the heat radiating from her body, a stark contrast to the chill creeping into my bones. It took everything I had to stand still, to not retreat into the cocoon of denial I had spun so carefully. Just say it, I urged, striving to keep my voice steady, though every syllable felt like a weight pushing down on my chest. What do you mean, about him? Her presence was like a dark cloud, casting shadows not just across the living room but deep into my memories, the moments I thought I had buried. He's back, she said simply, and the simplicity of her words belied the storm they unleashed. Ethan's looking for you. And for her. My breath snagged in my throat. Ethan. The name rattled against the walls of my mind, echoing like a warning bell. After all this time, I had convinced myself he was another piece of my past that would forever remain locked away. In that moment, I was no longer merely a mother protecting her daughter, I was also a woman flung back into a reality that I thought I could control, a reality I had tried to escape. Why now? The question passed my lips before I could stop it, punctuated with a silver thread of anger at him, at her, at the world that twisted and turned without any regard for the fragility of our carefully built life. What does he want? She took a deep breath, her wild curls trembling as she battled with her own emotions. He wants to explain. He says he's changed. But you know better than anyone changed? I interrupted, barely recognizing my own voice. He walked away. He had a choice, and he chose to leave us in the dust. A flicker of disbelief, begrudgingly acknowledged, sparked within me. I knew that whatever transformation Ethan claimed to have undergone was likely just another mask he wore, a convenient disguise for the havoc he once wrought. And what do we do if he finds us? I asked, my mind racing. What if Emily is caught in the middle of this? She doesn't need to know about him, about the chaos he once brought into our lives. A silence stretched between us, heavy with implications and unresolved emotions. That's why I'm here, she finally said, her voice softer now. To warn you. Ethan's not the only one looking for you. There are others who still have a claim, who want what you've built. You need to be ready. Her words slashed through me, leaving me gasping for breath as my heart pounded against my ribcage like a caged animal desperate to escape. Memories of sleepless nights, of the struggle to keep Emily safe and naive, came flooding back, suffocating me with fear. How had I thought I could build a life despite the chaos swirling just beneath the surface, Mom? The soft, unsuspecting voice of my daughter filled the room, and I turned to see her standing at the threshold, a book opened in her small hands. The innocence shining in her eyes was a stark contrast to the uncertainty darkening mine. Is everything okay? I swallowed hard, forcing a smile that felt like a mask itself. Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just a little grown-up talk. I stepped toward her, instinctively gathering her into my arms, needing the reassurance that our connection was still unbroken amidst the unsettling news gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. Emily nestled against me, her small frame fitting perfectly into the space between my arms, a reminder of all I had fought to protect. In that moment, I felt a dizzying swirl of determination ignite within me. I might have been facing shadows from my past, but Emily was still a lucid light guiding me through. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the front door, startling us both. The sound of metal hitting would resonated in my chest, filling the room with a chilling echo that sent shivers down my spine. Without thinking, I gently pushed Emily behind me, instinctively shielding her from whatever threat might approach. Who is it? I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. Open the door, it's me. A voice shouted. Desperate and frantic. It sent a knife of recognition piercing through my fear. It's Ethan. I need to talk to you, the message hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I locked eyes with the woman still in the room, her face mirroring the tumult within my heart. Behind the door was my haunting past, calling for attention, demanding a reckoning. I could not shield Emily from this moment any longer, nor could I hide from the man who had walked away, leaving behind only remnants of pain and heartache. That I counted the seconds, each one stretching infinitely, and in that stillness, I felt the fragments of my world shift around me. The door was more than just a piece of wood, it was a barrier between two lives, two histories, one that had remained hidden and another that had blossomed under the weight of secrets. Would courage lead me to swing it open, or would I let fear dictate my choices? I glanced down at Emily, who peered up at me with wide, trusting eyes. Whatever happened next, I knew I was standing at the precipice of a decision that would change everything. With one last deep breath, I reached for the doorknob, the uncertainty creating a storm all its own within me. I turned it slowly, and as the door creaked open, I was ready to face the truth no matter how much it threatened to unravel the fragile strands of the life I had worked to build. I stood at the threshold, heart racing, mind spiraling as the door opened inch by agonizing inch. When it fully swung open, Ethan stood before me, his familiar silhouette stiff with uncertainty, yet there were lines etched on his face that spoke volumes. Time had taken its toll, his once boyish features were now marred by worry and weariness. I struggled to reconcile the man before me with the ghost who had once shattered our lives. Ethan. The name escaped my lips like an incantation. What are you doing here? Please, just let me explain. His voice was strained, as if the words had been trapped inside him far too long. I didn't know how else to find you. Behind me, I could sense Emily shift, her small body pressing into my back, seeking reassurance in my unwavering stance. This was the moment I had dreaded, the moment I had fought to protect her from. Though my instinct was to close the door and shield her from everything Ethan represented, the fragility of our situation forced my hand. Explain what, exactly? I asked, folding my arms defensively, refusing to let any vulnerability seep through. You vanished without a word, Ethan. You left me to pick up the pieces, to explain to our daughter why her father chose the path he did. That I know, he said, shame swimming in his eyes. And I'm sorry. I thought I was saving you from the mess I was in. I thought you would be better off without me, scoffed. Better off? You had no idea what would happen to us once you left. I had to become both mother and father. My life became about surviving, about raising a daughter without a father, without knowing what you were really capable of. Ethan flinched as if I had struck him, but I couldn't stop now. My emotions poured out like an open tap, and for the first time in a decade, I allowed my anger to surface that I made a life without you, Ethan. You left. You don't get to come back and pretend that you can just slide into our lives again. Who do you think you are? I am the man who made mistakes, he replied, his voice trembling, but I've changed. I realize what I lost, and I want to make things right. Make things right? I echoed, incredulous. The depth of my hurt surfaced, a raw, aching wound I had worked so hard to bandage. You think you can just say that and everything will be okay? Emily is 10. She doesn't even know you, and I want to protect her from knowing. From the man who just left us behind without a second thought, suddenly, I felt a small tug on my sleeve. I turned to see Emily standing beside me, her large eyes filled with confusion and bravery. Mom, who is he? She whispered, her voice shaking slightly with the weight of her uncertainty. I knelt, facing her, the fork in our road growing clearer. He's someone from my past, I said, my heart aching at the way her innocence was already beginning to fracture. Ethan shifted uneasily as he caught the apprehension radiating from both of us, and then he crouched down to her Levilan instinctive move, perhaps born out of paternal habit. Hey, Emily, he said softly, his tone unexpectedly gentle. I know you don't know me, but I want to get to know you. Will you let me? I felt a surge of protectiveness clench in my stomach. No, I said firmly, rising to my feet. We don't need you here, Ethan. We've built a life, and now you just want to stroll in and play father. You don't get to take that from us, please, just give me a chance. His voice held an earnestness that tugged at the remnants of my heart, of the love that somehow still coiled within. I've changed in ways I can't explain in a hallway. Let me show you. Tension knitted itself around us like a choking vine. I was grappling not only with the past but with the uncertainty of the future. Beside me, Emily tilted her head curiously at Ethan, her heart a mix of fear and intrigue. I felt torn between wanting to shield her from potential pain and recognizing the importance of honesty, no matter how daunting it felt. Before I could disentangle my thoughts, a loud clap of thunder reverberated in the distance. The skies above darkened, as if mirroring my turbulent emotions. Mom? Emily whispered again, searching my face for clarity that I swallowed my racing heart. Maybe you can stay for a moment. But this will not be easy, I warned, my eyes never leaving Ethan's. As tentative as a newly blossomed flower, I stepped back, allowing him entry into the space we had carved out for ourselves. But just as I began to close the door to the past, a sudden noise sent a new wave of urgency through me. A soft but deliberate knock echoed from the back door, followed by a voice that felt like an intrusion on our fragile moment. Anyone home? I brought the ice cream. The moment shattered around us. The stab of recognition hit hard. Emily's friend, Jess, had come for a spontaneous visit, a delightful gesture I usually welcomed, but not now, not like this. Ethan's presence felt heavier with every knock, and as I glanced between the door and him, I sensed a faint tremor of fear coursing through my daughter. Would welcoming Ethan into our home mean I had to let someone else into our lives, too? Before I could formulate my thoughts, my phone buzzed from the table, vibrating against the wood, a jarring sound interrupting the whirlwind brewing around me. A text message flashed on the screen, and panic clouds my mind. The stark words struck me: we know where you are. Don't think you can hide anymore. My heart plummeted as reality engulfed me once again. Ethan and our past were just the beginning. There were secrets unearthing themselves in the crevices of the life I thought I had locked away. I looked up at him, urgency clenching my insides. Our threshold was now a battleground, one that threatened to shatter even the smallest glimmers of hope I had dared to nurture for so long. Yet, through the gathering storm, I felt desperation flicker, a potential thread that could lead to salvation, or further destruction. Emily, I whispered urgently. We need to talk more. We all do. The air in the room felt thick as I stared at Ethan, the man who had once filled my life with laughter and unfathomable joy, now a stranger wrapped in regret. I could barely breathe, the tension like a noose tightening around us. Emily, sensing the shift, looked between us with wide, innocent eyes, the world she knew suddenly tainted by the shadows of the past. "Mom?" Emily's voice was small, barely a whisper. "Why does he look sad?" "It's complicated, sweetie," I managed, my voice wavering. I could feel the storm brewing within me, past grievances, present fears, and future uncertainties coalescing into a tempest I wasn't sure I could contain. "That I want to know him, Mom." Emily's plea was steady, resolute, and pierced me like a shard of glass, revealing a truth I had tried so hard to protect her from. "He's my dad, right? Maybe." The uncertainty hung in the air like a fragile thread. "But, Emily," I hesitated, choosing my words carefully, "he hasn't been there. You deserve to know people who love you and will never leave." "I think he wants to now," she countered, casting a sidelong glance at her father, who was standing silently, his own heart locked away beneath a facade of anguish. I could see the fleeting hope in his eyes that wordlessly mirrored hers. "Just because he says he wants to doesn't mean he has the right to." My voice cracked with the weight of my emotions. Unfurling anger churned in the pit of my stomach, but as I glanced back at Ethan, the pain swirling in his gaze momentarily softened my resolve. The knock at the back door echoed again, almost mocking my internal struggle. Jess' voice rang through, light-hearted and oblivious. "I brought your favorites. Come on, let's do some ice cream." My heart twisted. Jess was a young warm light in Emily's life, always bringing laughter and an easy smile. She represented everything I had worked toward in creating a safe home. But how could I invite her into this turmoil? I had always wanted to shield her from the shadows creeping beneath our lives, but I was beginning to realize that perhaps shadows could not be kept at bay forever. Ethan shifted slightly, the hesitancy in his posture palpable. "Maybe it would be better if I left," he murmured, as if reading my mind. There was resignation in his tone that stung deeper than expected. "I can come back another time though." Something in me surged forward, a protective wave rising. "This is your moment, Ethan. You want to be a father? You need to stand up for it, even if it's painful." He looked at me, fraught with a mixture of gratitude and fear, but I had no energy to decipher which one propelled him. Before I could prepare myself, I felt my phone buzz again. Stealing my breath, I reached for the device, a momentary distraction from the tempest brewing in the room. Another message. "You don't have the luxury of time. You're not safe." A shiver ran down my spine. I clutched the phone tightly, disbelief and panic entwining within me. They had found me. My past was no longer something locked away, it was clawing its way back into our lives, dark and menacing. "Mom?" Emily reached for me, her small hand finding mine and squeezing tightly. "What's wrong?" I turned to her, forcing a steady breath, but I could see the tremor of apprehension in her wide eyes. "Nothing, baby. Just a reminder to be careful." My voice felt hollow, the knock at the back door turned urgent. Jess called out again, a thread of impatience lacing her tone. "Hey, someone better be ready for ice cream before it melts." I didn't come all this way for nothing. There was a flash of decision in Ethan, a spark that ignited something in my heart. "Let's get through this together," he said, determination lacing his words. "I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in my life, I'm choosing to stay. His lines sliced through my uncertainty, leaving a swirling nest of emotions in its wake. I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe that he could be the man I once adored. But could I really let these new fragments of hope sneak in after all the years of hiding? As I approached the back door, adrenaline surged within me. I could feel Ethan behind me, and I knew that whatever came next would not only drag our past uneasily into the present but would rock the foundation of the future we sought to build. "Let her in," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing in my heart. I could hear the surprise in Ethan's breath as I reached for the door, knowing that this could mean giving Emily a glimpse of the man I had done everything to protect her from. The door swung open, and Jess' infectious smile instantly lit the space. "There you are," she exclaimed, stepping inside with a bag of goodies clutched in her arms. She shot me a curious glance at Ethan, her brow furrowing slightly. "New friend?" I opened my mouth, searching for words in the tumult of confusion, and before I could shield her from what would inevitably seem like chaos, I heard the weight of my decision settling around us. "Jess, this is Emily's father, Ethan." The silence fractured the air as a palpable tension bloomed, every eye in the room darting between one another like a game of emotional chess. For the first time in years, I felt the walls around my heart tremble, torn between fear and the need for hope. What I didn't see coming, however, was the spark in Jess' eyes, recognition mingling with her innocent curiosity, like an impending storm about to break loose. In that brief moment, a forgotten past collided ferociously with the present, leaving me standing on the edge of a precipice, with no way of knowing whether I would fall or be caught. The sunlight filtered through the window, lending an unsettling brightness to the tension in the room. I could feel the weight of Jess's gaze upon me, eyes wide, full of questions and a flicker of recognition, a spark of danger I had hoped to conceal. Emily's hand still squeezed mine, grounding me to the present, a small but fierce tether against the chaos swelling around us. 1,000 thoughts wrestled for dominance in my mind, but all I could manage was a shaky breath as Jess stepped further into the room. "Hi," she offered, her voice light as a feather, but the heavy silence that followed her greeting punctured the air. "So, you're Emily's dad?" Her tone was friendly, sweet, but the subtle uncertainty danced just beneath the surface, hinting that the innocence of childhood was about to take a sharp turn. "Yeah, I am," Ethan said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He crouched to meet Emily's gaze, though I could see the hesitation there, the fear of rejection looming large. I really want to get to know you, Em. If that's okay." A part of me wanted to shield Emily from the disruption brewing in her life. I could feel the imminent repercussions crashing into our fragile little world. "Ethan," I began, but the words stuck in my throat. "Mom, let him speak." Emily's voice held a surprising firmness for one so small. "I want to." A careful smile flickered across Ethan's face, and in that moment, it flickered between the remnants of a man I used to love and the father I never thought he could be. But I couldn't shake the sense of danger coiling tight around us, the dark shadows inching closer, whispering of secrets unburied. "Maybe we should go to the park," Jess suggested with an air of cheer that seemed to swoop in on our disarray like a gust of wind. "Ice cream and playgrounds. Just what this family needs." A tiny spark of warmth glimmered in Emily's eyes at the suggestion. She still perceived adventure where I saw uncertainty, that I needed to protect her. That was my sworn duty. But as Jess' enthusiasm radiated, I felt the pull to surrender just this onceto trust in the possibilities that lay hidden in the tentative connections we were forging. "All right," I said slowly, the weight of my decision pressing heavily on my chest. "Let's head out." Emily bounced on her toes, a grin stretching across her face, but the inhale I took felt like a step into the abyss. Moments like these were fragile, easily shattered. I didn't know how to navigate the road ahead without understanding the dark clouds hovering just out of sight. As we made our way outside, the warmth of the sun contrasted sharply with the chill I felt settling deep within me. I glanced at Ethan, unsure of what to say. His uncertain smile frayed at the edges, so I filled the void with mundane chatter about the weather. "Looks like it'll be a good day." Ethan nodded, a silent understanding passing between us, an unspoken acknowledgement of the fractured past we could not shy away from. Perhaps today would be the first step toward something new. At the park, laughter floated in the air, mingling with the screams of children at play. Emily darted ahead, her joy infectious, igniting something long buried in my own heart. I watched through a haze of memories, recalled laughter that once filled our lives, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to hope. "Can I push her on the swing?" Jess asked, pointing toward Emily, who was already scrambling onto the swing set, her dark hair glistening in the shining sun. "Of course," I replied, pleased for the chance to step back and let the young girls enjoy the sunshine. As Jess's laughter danced around us, Ethan approached me, the weight of his intentions evident in his posture. "I want to be a part of this," he said, his voice barely a whisper over the chorus of playful screams. "I didn't realize how much I've missed." "I want to be a father," the sincerity in his words echoed with painful honesty. I wanted to reach out to him, but my own walls loomed tall, built from the agony of past disappointments. "It's not that easy, Ethan," I replied, my voice heavy with the burden of our history. "You walked away once. What would be different this time?" His eyes widened, and in that brief silence, the weight of my words hung between us like a fragile spider's web, each thread trembling with the tension of our shared past. "Because I'm here now," he urged fervently, turning a bit more earnest. "I can't change the past, but I want to try to be there for both of you." Before I could respond, a sudden commotion erupted. A group of older kids nearby had begun to bicker. Just as I glanced over to see what was happening, a loud crash followed, and then a piercing wail. My heart sank as I saw a little boy on the ground, tears streaming down his face. "I've got it," Ethan said, flying into action without waiting for my approval. Before I could caution him, he was racing toward the scene, stooping down to check on the boy who had fallen. Emily turned to watch, fidgeting nervously, her wide eyes reflecting the chaos unfolding before us. Jess hurriedly joined in, kneeling beside Ethan with her gentle, reassuring presence, which coaxed a shaky smile from the injured boy. As I observed the unexpected scene, a strange mixture of pride and fear coursed through me. Who was this man? The one who was putting himself at risk for a child who was not even his own. But just as quickly as that kernel of hope popped up, the earlier warning tingled in the back of my mind. It lurked like an unwanted shadow, threatening to pull me under again. "Mom?" Emily called softly, and I turned to find her staring at me, the innocence of her gaze a painful reminder of everything I had to protect. Is Dad going to stay?" My heart ached at the uncertainty in her question, at the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. "I don't know, sweetie." Suddenly, Ethan looked back at us, a gentle tenderness on his face, contrasting sharply with the questions dancing in my mind. But my phone buzzed again, a new message lighting up the screen. The words pulled me back into the darkness, making the world around us fade, wrapping me in the cold grasp of dread. "They're watching, don't trust anyone." My breath caught in my throat, and I felt the ground shift beneath me once more. The warmth of the day evaporated, replaced by the chill of a past that refused to stay buried. I gripped the phone tightly, unable to look away from the screen. In that moment, the question loomed larger than ever: was it worth the risk to trust him? Would he still choose to stand by us when the truth of my past came crashing in? Ethan turned toward us again, unaware of the storm brewing within me. As he offered his hand to Emily, inviting her to join them, I took a step back, heart in my throat. Two lives, one becoming chaotic, the other, one being rebuilt, and I stood teetering on the edge of all that was about to unravel. The laughter of children swirled around me, but I felt like I stood in a suffocating vacuum, the warmth of the sun now a distant memory. The world blurred as I focused on the message flickering ominously on my phone. The weight of those words was almost unbearable, and my grip tightened on the device, knuckles whitening. What had I done? Trusting might be the most dangerous gamble I've taken. My mind raced back to the venomous silence of the past, secrets buried in memories I had hoped never to unearth. Ethan was still crouched beside the little boy, his presence radiating warmth, an image of what family could be. Jess was engaged, comforting the child with a delicate touch, while Emily jumped up and down beside them, her laughter trying desperately to cover my budding fears. Every instinct urged caution. I stepped back further, my heart pounding as the conflicting feelings swirled like a tempest within me. I hadn't just put myself at risk by inviting Ethan back into our lives, I could be endangering Emily more than I dared to admit. "Mom. Come on." Emily called, beckoning me to join them. I looked up, catching the light in Ethan's eyes. There was kindness there, maybe even determination. But how could I let him in when an unseen danger loomed just beyond the horizon? The message felt like a noose tightening around my throat, dragging me deeper into an abyss I had fought to escape for so long. "Can we get ice cream now?" Emily's plea was earnest, innocent, and the glee on her face momentarily distracted me. My heart swelled with the sweetness of her request, but just as quickly, it fell under the weight of my hesitation. "Just give me a moment," I whispered to Emily, watching as she turned and bounced back to Ethan, her small figure a beacon against the dullness settling over me. I could see her little hand take his, and it sent a fresh wave of panic coursing through my veins. The shadows of my past were thick, dense, and full of oncoming storms. Standing there, I was acutely aware of the fragile balance I was trying to maintain. Was it possible that the return of Ethan could offer something good, or was it all just a charming illusion, masking the bitter reality lurking beneath? "Everything all right?" Jess had started making her way back toward me, sensing my distance. I nodded but felt hollow inside, the chill of uncertainty gnawing at the edges of my composure. Just thinking, I managed, trying to keep my tone steady. It's not easy, is it? She seemed to read the conflict in me, sensing the turmoil brewing behind my resolved expression. Getting back into this, whatever it is. More like facing it, I admitted quietly, watching as Emily clung to both Ethan and Jess. I couldn't allow myself to wallow in fear, yet, the unease twisted my stomach. Sometimes the best things emerge from chaos, Jess encouraged, her voice barely above a whisper as she joined my side, her eyes moving to the children. Happiness has a way of finding light, even in the darkest corners. That I wanted to believe her, but a chill swept through me, and I could only nod blankly, my heart still entrenched in doubt. At the ice cream stand, Emily was animated with every flavor choice she contemplated, eagerly explaining her selections to Ethan. Can I get chocolate and vanilla mixed? Or maybe sprinkles? Sprinkles make everything better. Ethan smiled down at her, and I could see a bit of gentle hesitation in his eyes, as if he were treading carefully on unsteady ground. The hope I felt for Emily clashed violently with my protective instincts, fueling an internal battle that raged on unseen. As I waited off to the side, my phone buzzed again. The sudden vibration seemed amplified, drumming in my ears like a warning. I glanced at the screen, expecting more ominous words, but was shocked to see a blurry image of a familiar figure standing too close to a window from my past home. My breath startled from my lips. It was Lucy, the one person I had thought was lost to the ashes of yesterday. The butterflies in my stomach turned to knots, and the joy surrounding me faded in an instant. Mom? Emily's voice cut through the fog, and I turned to see her beaming up at me with her ice cream in hand. I forced a smile, trying desperately to mask the dread creeping over me. Isn't it great? Yeah, my voice faltered under the weight of everything I was holding inside. Really great, but my heart wasn't in it. The truth hung like a specter over us, the revelation of Lucy threatening to unbalance everything. I needed to uncover what it meant, but in doing so, was I risking everything? Ethan approached, unaware of the turmoil raging just beneath the surface. You okay? His brow furrowed in concern, genuine compassion on his face. I opened my mouth to respond, but my mind raced. I could feel the walls closing in. Just a bit overwhelmed, I suppose. Jess moved closer, arching an eyebrow as she caught a glimpse of my expression. Do you need to talk? No, I replied quickly, but even I could sense the desperation in my tone. I knew I had to sift through the web of my past, the connections that threatened to unravel everything. And then, as if conjured by my thoughts, the familiar figure of my old life emerged nearby, Lucy waving, laughing, and clutching a scooped cone. Time stood still. All warmth evaporated, leaving behind a chill colder than ice cream on a summer day. Lucy. The name slipped from my lips. If this moment had the power to change everything, my heart raced at the realization that I had only just stepped into the storm. The heartbeat of the park was a symphony of laughter and joy, but for me, life felt suspended in a heavy stillness, a tipping point that could plunge us into chaos with a single misstep. Lucy's presence loomed like an inescapable shadow. She looked breathtakingly familiar, her laughter echoing a time I thought was locked away. The warmth she carried felt almost magnetizing, inviting confusion and fear to dance around my heart. A part of me wanted to shield Emily from the overwhelming reality of it all. I made it my life mission to build a world in which she could thrive, safe from the tumult of our past. Yet here was Lucy, holding a scoop of ice cream as if ready to rewrite our narrative. The sight of her felt like a storm breaking upon the shores of my serenity, ushering waves of anxiety crashing over me. Hey! Lucy called, her voice cheerful and unrepentant of the wounds it opened within me. She approached with that same vivacious energy I remembered, her eyes sparkling like the sun glimmering off the city pond. It's so good to see you. Who's this? She beamed at Emily, who stood by my side, clutching her ice cream as if it were a lifeline. The innocence on her face contrasted sharply with the unease swirling in my own heart. I felt Emily's small fingers clutch mine tighter, sensing my turmoil. This is Emily, I said, forcing the smile to break through the facade of fear. My daughter. Emily? Oh, what a beautiful name. You look just like your mom. Lucy's voice dripped with sincerity, yet each compliment felt like a cut, reopening old wounds. "Thank you," Emily replied timidly, caught between the warmth of Lucy's charm and the mystery overshadowing her. "Wow. Ice cream looks delicious. What flavor did you get?" Lucy leaned down, radiant and affectionate as she engaged Emily, and I could see my daughter's trust being unwoven. Drawn to this stranger who embodied light and familiarity, chocolate and vanilla mixed, she stated proudly, "And I have sprinkles." Her excitement sifted through the tension like sunlight breaking through clouds, but my heart ached as I felt the barriers disintegrate. Ethan appeared at my side, catching the tail end of their conversation. I shot him a nervous glance, worry etched deep in his features. "Maybe we should head back?" he suggested quietly, concern threading through his voice, but before I could respond, Lucy turned to Ethan, recognition glazing over her eyes in a way I'd never expected. "Oh. You're Emily's dad." The joy in her voice was sharp, almost jarring. "It's so nice to finally meet you. I've heard so much about you." "Have you?" The question slipped from my mouth, cloaked in disbelief. A flurry of emotions churned inside me. Lucy's presence threatened to unravel not just our present but everything we had collectively built over the years. She stood there, effortlessly charming, and the past loomed in every radiant smile. "Yeah, all the good stuff, of course," she said breezily, her eyes flitting between Ethan and Emily, the warmth of her affection unsettled by the piercing cold I felt settling around me. "Maybe we should go." I glanced at Emily, hoping to convey everything my heart felt. The notion of exposing her to a past I had tried to shelter her from was unbearable. Emily's eyes brightened, betraying her own uncertainty. "Can I say goodbye to Lucy?" she asked, the innocence in her voice cutting through my defenses like a vivid blade. "Of course, you can say goodbye." The begrudging acquiescence slipped through my mind like a treacherous whisper, but my heart still fluttered with protest. How could I let Lucy intercept the fragile moment we had built? "Goodbye, sweet pea." Lucy leaned down and hugged Emily tightly, too tightly for a non-relative. I watched, heart hammering, as the embrace seemed to send electric shocks of warmth over my daughter's innocent shell. It sickened me. I shifted back into protective mode. As Lucy finally released Emily, she looked up at me, and the world stopped for just a heartbeat. "You've done such a wonderful job with her," she praised, glancing back at Ethan with a knowing smile. "It's truly incredible, right?" The word tumbled from my mouth, filled with layers beneath layers of alarm. "Oh." Lucy's face lit up like a light bulb. "If you're all here, why don't we sit? It would be great to catch up. I've missed you both." I glanced at Ethan, whose brow was creased, caught in periods of uncertainty. "I think we should go," I insisted, desperately yearning to retreat back into our cocoon of safety. It's been a long day." Ethan hesitated, caught between paths diverging in front of him. The hope in his eyes felt as fleeting as seasonal change. "But I wouldn't mind catching up with Lucy, and maybe Em could get to know her too." My heart twisted painfully. The notion of allowing my child to understand someone who only represented turmoil and entanglement rubbed raw against my instincts. Would I really let Emily enter a labyrinth woven from memories I thought I had carefully locked away? "I'm fine with it just for a little while, though," Emily chimed in, sealing the air with her earnestness. Her little voice whispered through layers of disappointment and anxiety, a desperate pleas for curiosity, breaking through the fortress I had built around her heart. Before I could respond, Lucy bounded back toward us, her enthusiasm infectious despite my own reservations. "Yay! Let's grab the picnic table in the shade so we can chat." They began walking, as if drawn away by an unseen force. I felt lost between the cracks of the world we had created and the shadows creeping around the edges. I had spent so long forging a life of safety for my daughter, and now it felt as if the forces beyond reason were conspiring to wrench the very joy from our grasp. Yet as I began to follow, a devastating thought brushed against the recess of my mind. What if Lucy wasn't the only specter haunting the edges of this newfound chapter? What if the hidden messages pulsed like an ominous tide, revealing a threat I had not yet recognized? The realization settled like a stone in my chest. With a resolve powered from the core of my motherly instincts, I took Emily by the hand and turned toward Ethan, unwilling to let fear dictate our narrative. "Let's go sit together," I said quietly, but firm, almost daring the looming past to reveal its intentions more forcefully. "Together," Ethan echoed softly, reaching for Emily's other hand, his expression switching under the weight of my hypothesis, uncertainty still rivaling with determination. As we approached the picnic table, my heart thudded against my ribs, a desperate plea for resolve echoing through my veins. Yet even with the storm's gathering clouds above us, I felt something stronger, an ember of hope pushing against fear, a focal point reminding me that perhaps I could fuse the past and present in a way that could birth forgiveness. And just as we sat down, the air shifted perceptibly. I felt it in the core of my being, a thread of connection that weaved itself through our juxtaposed truths and fears. We were no longer separate entities. Ethan, Emily, and I felt like we were entwined in a force beyond our control, a force demanding resolution, begging for clarification. But as Emily and Lucy chatted, oblivious to the currents swirling around us, I knew the question remained: could reconciliation become our survival? Would healing, forgiveness, and acceptance interlace between us all? The answer hovered uncertain as I allowed my heart to loosen, and in the midst of a seemingly perfect afternoon, the stakes rose higher still, carrying with it the weight of decisions that would define our lives and resolve an emotional conflict usurped by truth. As I leaned in to catch a moment between them, I whispered softly, "Just remember to tread gently. The past is always lurking." Lucy's laughter rang clear, echoing like a beacon. The air thickened, confirming that our fates were tied intricately together, forever changed, yet yearning for something more profound than fear. And in that moment, as though inviting the heavens to bear witness, I understood that none of us had been aligned, not until now. Later, both wistfulness and clarity coiled within me, leaving echoes spinning in intricate spaces. It was in those echoes, heavy yet transcendent, where I found the profound truth, the kind that could only exist in the hearts we connected with. Perhaps, just perhaps, with every terrifying truth discovered, the threads of possibility might untangle, blossoming into moments filled with love, even love hard-earned through forgiveness. As the sun began to set, casting golden rays through the branches, I whispered softly in the heart of my fragile sanctuary, hoping our true journey had just begun.